functional movement, we want to make sure that our alignment is on point. So we must address neutral pelvis, or as I like to call it, optimal pelvis. Neutral pelvis allows the spine to be a neutral spine, which means that our spine is in the best position for movement. It's the strongest position that our body can be in for any type of movement. We want to focus on our neutral pelvis so that our body can start to align in that way as second nature. So to learn more about your optimal pelvis or neutral pelvis, we're going to do a few pelvic tilts. So simply, you'll lay on your mat, on your back. Arms along by the sides so the chest is open. Feet flat. You want to think your feet are underneath your knees. All 10 toes pointing forward. And remember, your feet are open, hips socket distance apart. So remember, only 2 fist distance between those 2 feet. So pelvic tilts is simply curling the pelvis towards you and tilting the pelvis away from you. Also known as posterior pelvic tilt and anterior pelvic tilt. So posterior pelvic tilt is when the pelvis is coming towards you. Anterior is when it's going away from you. Or as I like to call it, the Steve Urkel posture versus the J-Lo posture, because that helps you remember Steve Urkel tucks his pelvis. J-Lo has that nice booty, so she pushes that booty out. So what this does is we start to learn that there are 2 different tilts. Neither one of them are optimal, neither one of them are neutral. So the pelvic tilt towards you, you feel the low back press down against the mat or the floor. As you tilt the pelvis away from you, you feel that big space behind the low back. The ribs expand out into that arching place. So now if we find the happy medium between the 2, the ribs are in the belly. There's still a little space behind the low back, and the back of the pelvis is anchored down to the mat. And you can feel how the sacrum, which is that triangle shape literally right above your butt crack, anchors down to the mat. So here's where optimal pelvis will be, which allows the spine to have its natural curves behind the neck and behind the low back. So there's spaces there when you're laying on a mat or on the floor. You want to keep those spaces, and from here you can move and do whatever you need with the strongest spine possible. So remember, just working your pelvic tilt is curling the pelvis towards you, tilting the pelvis away from you. This is something that you can do every day. It's a nice low back release and a nice hip release, and also it teaches you where neutral pelvis is. So remember, your neutral pelvis isn't Steve Urkel, it's not J-Lo. It's that happy medium in between, ribs in, feel a little ab engagement, back of the pelvis heavy against the mat. There's a space behind the low back, and that is your optimal position that your pelvis should be in when you're moving.